Happy Friday. And indeed, it's Friday. And just when I thought I had my stuff together, everyone, just when I thought we were there, you and I, we were right there with each other. And I had my intro going, and I have a guest today who's going to be talking about her company, which does like tech production for live events. I kicked myself out of the room. I just kicked myself out of the room. But again, Trish Point oh show. If it's not a little ratchet and it's not fun, it's probably not this show. So let's get right to the interview today. Super excited. Her name is Terri Walters. Terri, how are you?
I'm doing great, Trish. It's awesome to be here. Thanks for having me.
Right. Great way for us to start this segment. If I don't kick my computer or what I'm a mess.
It's really funny. We're sitting there kind of chill talking and, then it's like, wow, it's like every live event, it's like the start of every live event. Oh, no, this thing got kicked out. How do we fix that?
What happened?
Yeah.
I just clicked the wrong button. To be perfectly clear, I clicked the wrong button.
You recovered well.
But thank you very much. But let's get right into it. Let everybody know who you are, who we're talking to today, and what you do.
All right. Well, according to the lower third here, where am I? Oh yeah, there I am, Terri Walters. There I am. All right. And for 23 years, I've been at the helm of Moonfish Production, and we are a technical production management company. That's really our forte. Mostly, we work with corporate clients, and what we really do is take clients' ideas and strategies and actually make them happen. So we execute. We're at the back end of the execution. We strategize, but really production management is it's where the buck kind of stops. It has to happen, and we make it happen.
Yeah, and we were just talking in the green room about how there's certain vendors you pay to produce a particular effect. Like you pay a floral company to be gorgeous. You pay a venue to be wonderful. Um, but but the reality is there's a whole category of other vendors in terms of events that what you're actually paying for is for them to not screw up.
Yeah, exactly. Like we were just talking about that. Exactly. You made me laugh because we have the same kind of approach to that. I always say nobody walks out of the show and says, "Wow, that was really good audio." People expect good audio. When it doesn't happen, you totally hear about it. Audio is, underrated in my opinion. Audio is really important. A lot of people underestimate the power of good or bad audio.
Yeah.
But, so everybody has to play at their A game during a live event. There are no do-overs.
Yeah, I mean that's the really fascinating challenge because you came from a background of working in TV production,
Mhm.
so you have that, and then you went to live events, which was a pretty natural transition.
Mhm.
And was it as natural as I'm envisioning that transition, or was it tougher than I think it was?
I think technically, there's a lot of the same equipment and the same types of people. To do a television production. I am a producer, just so everybody knows. A lot of people come from a specific technical background. Some people, you say, "Oh, I was an audio guy, and now I'm a producer." I was a, video gal, and now I'm a producer. I was always in the production end. I was always the kind of maestro, grand organizer. I have a really good way of bringing teams together. So, to answer your question, production-wise, there's a lot of the same skills because you have a lot of the same people, a lot of arty people, a lot of technical people. You deal with clients who want to say something, they don't necessarily know how to say it or get it done. So there's a lot of the same elements. But a live event is different from a television production, not a live television production, because a lot of television productions are recorded. You can stop and start over in television, in movies, take 1, take 2, take 27, take 35, take 110. In live events, it's take 1 all the time. That's
Right.
it. Take 1 is the one that counts. So
Yeah. I mean, that's certainly something to think about when you're out there looking at the next keynote person on stage. And if you happen to be that person in the audience thinking, well, it sounds a little canned. Well, being canned is probably their best, bet in terms of not sounding like a complete fool, on a live stage.
Yeah, I mean, there's an art to not sounding
Mm,
canned. I think, some people do it well, some people don't. I know, I've seen, believe me, in the past 30 years, I've seen the gamut of preparation versus not preparation. Some people are better prepared, some people are better not as prepared. I've seen, I
mm.
have a particular guy that I work with, and he will prepare to the hill. He's like the best presenter, and he does it on prompter. He is awesome. And but I know from working with him through the years, he can get over prepared and it will
Ah,
tire him out and it'll make him worse. So you have to maintain that ability to kind of know your clients and know the people you're working with and say, I can push him this far, but if I push him this far, it's like downhill. So
well, and how much, I mean, we're talking about event production and sort of that you've been primarily the person behind the camera, not necessarily the person in front of the camera. So we are, you are entering a transition,
yes, it's
in
a
terms of
personal evolution.
an evolution of Terri Walters for sure.
You're watching it right
Um,
now.
exactly. Live,
Yeah.
take one. Um,
Yeah. Scary.
no, no, it's fine. It's fine. It's just me. And
Take it easy.
however many people are watching,
You make
it's
it easy, Trish.
right. Thank you.
Let's create some scandal here so we can bump the numbers up.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we start talking about politics and religion both together at the
Excellent.
same time. No, like
Perfect.
we're not going to do that
No,
at
we're not
all.
gonna do
At
that.
all. Just don't want to scare anybody. No, no, no. But where I was going with that is that when you now find yourself in that speaker's position where you were just talking about pushing people and helping them go a particular direction or do what they need to do to create a better presence for themselves in a live event. Do you find that how do you feel? We'll just start there. How do you feel about now being on the other
I know.
side of that equation?
Well, let's just put it out there and say that, it's kind of totally weird. I mean, I've kind of trucked along for the past 20 years doing my thing and honing my craft and being really, really good at it. I think I'm really good at it. A lot of other people think I'm pretty good at it, which is good. But being trying to make a shift, like what I'm doing at this point is, I'm taking all that tactical stuff that I'm good at, and trying to I want to position myself a little bit more strategic. I think that the I've been let me back up a second. I mean, I've acted as a number of different positions in events. I mean, I've done planning, I've done producing, I've done technical producing, and I show call. So a show caller is a pretty unique position in a show. All right. And for people who don't know what a show caller is, that's a person who sits in usually the general session and calls all the cues to the crew to actually execute what's happening. Stand by with lights go, push the CEO out, roll the video, bring the audio up, bring the lights down. Every thing that happens in that room is got to be called. It's got to have a cue. It's got to be in order. And we practice that and we organize it and we execute. All right. If something changes, it's like an aircraft carrier. You
Right.
can't it takes an aircraft carrier 7 miles to stop. It's sort of like an event. Something changes, everything has got to, we have to reassess and reset. All right. So as a show caller, I have a unique position to see the weaknesses and the strengths of every event. I see, the CEO isn't prepared. I see he's stumbling. I see the lighting person doesn't exactly, isn't where we need them to be at this point. I see that we're going to run late and that's going to impact the planner. That's, they got their catering that's going to be set out at 5:15 or, 4:15, and we're not coming out of the room until 4:45. So I see that, and it allows me to have a real unique perspective, and actually elevate. I keep banging my microphone. Sorry about that. I'm talking too much here.
I kicked myself out of the room. Just
Okay.
whenever.
You see, I need like
Remember,
a lavalier or one of those diva mics. It's
yeah, probably like when you
because
Janet
I'm such
Jackson
a diva.
situation. Yeah, so whenever you think you're doing something wonky, just
Okay,
remember I kicked myself out of it.
I won't beat myself up too much.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's kind of where I look at myself and I say, how can I, I've helped clients see that stuff informally, where you go in and you kind of teach people how to see things and do things and manage things. And, you know, as a vendor, a lot of times you're in a kind of weird place where you don't want to give everybody the keys to the kingdom all the time. You don't want to say, here you go, because then as why do they need you, right? I mean, and it's a very selfish way to think, but it's natural for some people, right?
Right.
For me, I don't want to be in that position. I want to say, here's everything. Let me show you the way, and you know, and that way you can do whatever you need to do after that. You love working with me. That's great. I'll work with you to the ends of the earth. You want to take what we've talked about and make it work for you. That's great too. So that's kind of the direction I think I feel I need to go at this point in my life. And the podcast kind of is an extension to that.
Well, that was a really interesting part of when you and I talked earlier this week. That was a really fascinating thing for me, to observe in your business. That it seemed like, coronavirus or not, you were kind of at that point anyway. You were kind of at this crossroads anyway of wanting to transition your business, add the podcast, and move forward perhaps in a different related position, but not exactly not doing the same thing you've been doing.
Yeah.
So am I correct in that assessment that this
You
was going
are.
to happen?
I think you are, and I don't.
Yeah.
It's funny, you saw it before I actually did. It took me a long time to see it. Um, and
Outsider's perspective.
it is, and that's what's really helpful about doing this kind of stuff. I mean, since I started doing the podcast, I've talked to I mean, I usually am nose to the ground. Again, as a tactician, people are always like that. You get your nose to the ground. You're working really hard, and when you come up for air and you can look at a different perspective and you can
Yeah.
talk to people, you can say, "Wow, that's," and talking to you, Trish. I mean, that's exactly it. I never really thought about that, and now I am.
Right. You're like, wow. You're like, yeah, maybe that's what it is. But I think you and I, have that same sort of mentality where, I can find very much, within my own business, within my own line of work, that it's easier for me to just do instead of come up and observe.
Yeah,
I'm not that person that, when crap hits the fan, that I'm going to run around and start pulling hands and start gathering people into my orbit and panicking and going into a fury. I'm really that person that, what, if it's raining and my truck is stuck in a ditch and we need to move 10 tables a mile up the road by hand, I'm going to be on that truck moving those tables.
right.
And I'm going to try to enlist as many people as I can get to assist with that as possible. But nose to the grindstone, that's the type of person that I am, which that's not always the great thing. That's not always a really great thing in business. Like sometimes you do have to be able to pull back and observe yourself and call in other, experts or external perspectives or, whatever it is you need to do.
I think you're right. I mean, I
Yeah.
watched some of the stuff from your guest yesterday. Was it Channing yesterday, right?
Channing, yeah.
Yeah, she was the branding person, and a lot of the stuff that she talked about resonated with me. I always say I am like one of the best producers, but I really am not great at marketing, and
Yeah.
I always have a hard time vocalizing my value proposition. I have clients with whom I've worked for years, and they say they will be my advocate and say to someone, "This is Terri. She's a producer. Once you work with a producer like Terri, you're never going to want to do it this any other way." And I go, "Wow, that is a great, that's supportive and it's great. It makes me feel really
Right.
good. Why can't I say something like that about myself?"
You're
You
like,
know? I know, it's like I'm like the worst marketer. I'm not great at networking. I'm good with people. I like people. I'm really good at, getting people to to perform at their best, but I am not really great at getting out there and, I can't walk up to people in a restaurant or a bar or wherever and say, "Hey, yeah, I'm Terri. I'm not a natural born salesperson." I don't think.
Well, I think that selling, much like anything else in life, you can be a natural born salesperson. You
Mhm.
can, uh, and certainly I've been in this sales arena for the majority of my career, and spanning back to my first job at the age of 15. Um, you know, what I am not, and what I've learned from that is that I am not a natural born salesperson. What I like to do is connect with people. What I like to do is help people solve their problems. So when I have very similar conversations to what you and I are having right now with
Mm.
friends who are in business and who are like, yeah, but I'm not a salesperson, I'm not a marketer, I'm not this, I'm not that. I'm like, ultimately you just have to kind of find the reason that you're doing what you're doing and talk to people from that perspective. Like ultimately, you're here to help people do XYZ.
Mhm.
So when you're talking to somebody about helping them get to that point, then is it a sales pitch? Yes, it's a sales pitch, but it's also the truth. It's an honest sales pitch. It's a soft sales approach as opposed to a hardball approach. And I
Right.
think that's where people kind of get really flustered and frustrated in the whole sales arena. They don't know the difference between soft and hard selling, and I'm not a fan of hard selling.
Mhm.
You sounds like are not a fan of hard sales. So it's just finding your comfort zone in soft sales, but you can do it. I have faith in you. You seem capable.
Thanks for your support. I like it. Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, it's I've been reading a lot and hearing a lot, because you're in and out of meetings and
yeah,
you're on a lot of mailing things about servant leadership. Have you heard about
right.
that servant leadership? How it's your goal in order to lead effectively, you need to be able to serve your various constituencies,
Makes
and
sense.
you have to
Sure.
have a servant's heart is what I've heard, how I've had it, laid out to me.
Right.
And so, I think that it comes from that. I think, everybody in this industry is there for someone else ultimately, you know?
Hopefully.
Yeah. I mean, you could be doing so many other things that make you so much more money if that's what you're into, you know?
That's what I say.
Yeah,
When people ask me about getting into the events industry, the first thing I tell them is whatever you do, whatever decision you make, whatever avenue you decide to pursue,
yeah,
you better love it.
yeah,
You better be able to do it for free because oftentimes you will be doing it for
yeah,
free.
yeah,
You better be able to shake off all the negativity and the stress that comes along with it because there's going to be plenty of that as well.
yeah.
And you can make money. There is money to be had, but that can't be the motivator. Not when it comes to something as personal as events, because really we're all about connecting people, and so it's people first.
Yeah, I mean, I totally agree. It's, go open a hedge fund if you want
Yeah,
money, So,
make
you
tons
know
of money.
yeah, yeah, it's, but yeah, so I think, I think that, the whole, servant's heart thing is an important thing. I think, knowing yourself and what makes you feel successful yourself is important. So,
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's a very, very valid, perspective to start from,
mhm.
for sure. But talk to me more about the Event Yak, which is your podcast.
Yeah, Event
5
Yak.
years in the making.
Yeah, yes, I'm
I
in
love it.
the 5-year plan of, podcasting.
All right. The
I
John Belushi plan.
Yeah, yeah, I looked at podcasting, I looked, it's really funny. I start to look at my notes. You know how you, like, go through your computer and you, like, cleaning stuff up and you're like you pull up
Yeah.
a document and you go, "Wow, that was, like, 9 years ago. Why didn't I ever execute on that?" It's kinda weird, So I've been talking about podcasting, and it's really weird. I started thinking I should do something that's industry related. I was been doing this, and
Huh,
if I'm
why
if
not?
I'm an expert on something, I guess it's this. I'm a pretty general person. So then I, jumped to a couple of other different things. I brew beer, so I'm thinking, hey, maybe I could
Oh,
do a podcast on brewing beer, something somebody, some of your listeners may not know, but now they know. So I looked at that, and then weirdly, most recently, like we just talked about before, the roadblocks to creating something new. My big roadblock for podcasting, believe it or not, is the technology piece of it. It's creating the website, because you're all things in a podcast. You're all things. You're the CEO, you're the web designer, you're the person who preps the interviews, you're the person who edits it, you're the person who listens to it, and all that. So that's not has not always been my bag, So the website thing was the big catch for me. I couldn't, I went into WordPress and I tried it twice. I mean, I like threw myself into it, and WordPress is it's a killer. It slayed me. I don't get it. And people listening to this are going to go, WordPress, really? That's not so bad. But it was my roadblock. All right. So I got to a point, and I'll tell you the exact date. And the reason I remember is kind of weird. So it's April 2nd. All right. We're just getting into COVID-19. It's my Aunt Dot's birthday. She would have been like 120 or something. Right.
Oh, wow.
So I remember it's April 20th. This happens, and something hits me, bang. And I say, I really feel like I need to create a platform for people to talk about what's going on. I mean, we're going to come out of this, and we're all going to be different, and the world's going to be different, and events are going to be different. And how are we all going to get out of this thing? And how is it going to happen? And people are going to want to talk about it. So I said, this would be a pretty good idea for a podcast. So for 2 weeks, I threw myself into the technology behind it and the strategy of it, and launched on the 14th. So whatever it was, 12 days. It took me 12 days to get my act together, after 5 years, of course. And I've done 5 shows. I've done 4 interviews, 5 shows. So that's where I'm at right now. And now I'm starting to, I'm talking with, great people like you who are going to help to promote that, and also help to promote my own personal evolution, which is a parallel, it's kind of a parallel. So
yeah, it's I mean, and it's certainly an interesting time. I think that a lot of people struggle when you were, I'll just backtrack because I'm trying to get this thought out. So when you and I were talking about starting the podcast earlier in the week, and you were telling me about the WordPress site, my comment to you was, it wasn't ever about the WordPress site, right? It was always about content. It was always about the direction. And I think that for better or worse, what this has done is given us all a great thing to hang on to, and a commonality to talk to each other about. And certainly, having multiple voices out there, interviewing multiple people. Look, it's a good thing. It can only be a good thing. I'm doing a show, but I'm doing a one-on-one interview show where I'm doing it once a day with one person at a time. So I can only ever, unless I switch formats and really want to make my life difficult, get into like a multiple thing, something multiple, outputs per day.
Yeah.
So I'm only ever getting to 5 people per week. Well, there are a lot more than 5 people per week's worth of event professionals out there. And there are tons of markets out there. You actually, for anybody that does not know, you are in Jersey,
yes,
correct?
I'm in Jersey. Yep.
And do you service Central Jersey, Trenton, or do you service the New York tri-state?
I do mostly New York tri-state, but we're global. I mean, I've done events for people on the West Coast. I've done international events. We've been to Indonesia. We've been to Mexico. We've executed events everywhere. But most of my most recent clients are New York based.
Yeah, and that's really, that makes a whole lot of sense, right? Because if you're talking about destinations in the world that are pretty synonymous with live events, you're really talking about the New York, Atlanta, Chicago, LA, these sort of central hubs.
Right.
But in terms of then live events going forward, there are a lot of people speculating right now, right? There are a lot of people who who are experienced, who are experts, who are industry leaders. But the fact of the matter is, no one is experienced in this right here, what we're doing right now.
Correct.
No one has this experience. And and you and I, we go back, not to date myself or you with the following statement. However, we go past deep into the 2008,
Yeah.
financial
Yes.
debacle, the 9/11,
Yes.
going into the 1970s,
Yes. Not our first
gas
rodeo.
strikes. Yeah,
No.
not our first rodeo, not by a long shot.
No.
And we know that this is uncharted territory for a lot of people. So to make any hard statements, excuse me, about what the future looks like, I wouldn't say that's necessarily folly, but I would say that all you can do is speculate. All you can do is speculate.
I agree.
And so what is your speculation? Like, where do you theorize, this is going to
You
look like?
know,
What
my
is this going to look
Oracle
like?
hat here. Um, you're exactly right. I think that having perspective is always a good thing, but
Yes.
you are 100% correct that this is different than any other of those events that you talked about. 9/11 was a horrible event. It affected us all. For events, it affected New York. I mean, it
Mhm.
affected and what came out of 9/11 was things like security changes and
Yeah.
how we accessed buildings and how we thought about when we were in rooms. Is there a route that we can, what are the escape routes, quote unquote, that kind of thing. But the entire world did not shut down.
Right.
This is restaurants, shopping centers, bowling alleys, golf courses. Everything is shut down. So the economy itself is shut down. So this is a totally different animal. While the other things were horrible, this is a huge hole for us to all dig out of. And it's going to take time. Now, how do I perceive that's going to happen? I've had conversations with numerous people about this. We all kind of have the same thought. I think the first thing we all need to do, and the first thing that's going to happen is, we need to have dinner with our extended family. All right. So
Right.
right now we're all in our little family unit bubble situation. And the first time we all expand beyond that for our family dinner where we, invite Uncle Johnny and grandmom and everybody, that's going to be the first big step. And when is that going to happen? I have no idea. After that, we have the, hopefully summer barbecue where you invite the neighbors, and then, people I have a friend who had two kids who canceled their weddings this year. They had two weddings this year and they canceled both
Oof,
of them. Right.
that's
So
hard.
how do we now we start to do weddings and we start to do birthdays and things. So I think the private event groups are going to come out first. It doesn't
Right.
mean that everybody's going to make a ton of money very quickly, because I don't think that's going to happen. I think people are going to roll out like they're going to come out like little turtles. People are going to start sticking their head out and testing the waters.
We're going to be the groundhogs of the event of the world,
Yeah, right.
the event industry.
And that's that'll start to evolve from there. Now, and that's if we don't have a relapse of this thing. Hopefully, I know that they're trying to manage the opening of the country with the guidelines, the health guidelines. I mean, that's a hard thing. I don't
It is.
envy anybody who's trying to manage this thing. I'm trying to manage my own life, and I'm like a pipsqueak. They're
Right.
managing the country and the world. It's like, so I think, as we roll out of it personally, and then we go into the kind of more, private events, the corporate stuff and, that kind of stuff, I think will follow. And again, I've talked to numerous people about this. A couple of interviews I've had, everybody's kind of echoing the same thing. Cause I
Yeah.
think everybody has the same kind of background, the people that I've been talking to. So you come out into the corporate events. How do we get from there to NAB, or CES, those big giant trade shows where you've got hundreds of
Yeah.
thousands of people walking through your space? How do we get there? How long does it take? I don't know.
And do we ever get back to there?
I don't know. And what does that look like? So, people are talking about how to, and not to jump, I'm very stream of consciousness, Trish. So
That's all right. Go for it.
about
Do it.
about 15 years ago, a really, really good mentor of mine said to me, you should get into virtual trade shows. And I was like, what are you talking about? Who the heck wants to go to a virtual trade show? You go to a trade show because, you want to be taken out for dinner, or you want to, like, meet new people, you want to do, you got to sell, and it's all about, pressing the flesh and, being with people. And who would want to do that? So 15 years later,
Surprise,
you know,
surprise.
you say, wow, a virtual trade show may not be so whack, you know? And this is the same guy, by the way, who told me, 20 years ago that this thing, we'd be doing everything on it. He says, "Oh yeah, the phone is going to be the computer. You're not even going to need a computer. It's the phone is going to be." This is like 20 years ago. So I should have listened to this guy multiple times.
Where is he now? We
I
need we
know,
need
right?
his voice in all
I can't
of
tell you.
this.
He's an undisclosed location.
Right, yeah, yeah, clearly. He's he's probably better off than a lot of us at this
Yeah,
point in
yeah,
time.
exactly. I'm sure.
Yeah, it's but it's difficult, right? It's because it's when you're talking about future trends and you're talking about things in the future, it's difficult to gauge just how far things will happen in the future, because ultimately in terms of events, in terms of the events industry, it's very similar to the fashion industry in terms of, we are future planners, we are future thinkers, we predict trends, we
Right,
anticipate for events that will
right.
happen eventually down the road, and we think that this is all how it's going to happen, and this is the best methodology to get that done, and and have that done. But but none of us really know. We're not. We can pretend to be oracles, but we're really not. uh,
But that's all. A lot of that stuff is all based on past experience, and
right.
it's almost like algorithms. You know what I mean? It's
Yes.
like, we've done this and we've done this, and that means we're going to have this, or this has happened and this has happened, and this means this is going to happen. Like, this has never happened. I mean,
I know.
there is nothing like this. And people who say that things are going to happen a certain way, you have to look at it and say, okay, that's your opinion, and maybe it's an educated one, but I don't think anybody really has an idea. I hate to, I hate to stand here and,
No,
not have an answer for you, but
no,
it's my
it
answer.
is. But the non-answer is the answer.
Yeah, the non-answer is the answer. And I think people just need to do what's right for them at this point. And,
Right.
there's a lot of people who are saying, oh, you need to, continue to learn. And, I keep saying for myself, evolve, 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 keep moving, keep moving, keep
Yeah,
moving.
of course.
Because coming out of it, there's going to be something. We don't know what it's going to be. But the more preparation you have and the more confidence you have yourself, the better you're going to be, and the readier you're going to be to execute. It's just like any event. It's like an event, prepare, 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 think about what's going to happen, what could happen, what might happen. And then when whatever happens, you're at least ready for it. I know it sounds weird.
Or something. Or something.
Yeah, or something. So,
Yeah, yeah. I mean, like I've always been fascinated by game theory. It's been something that I've had sort of, I'm just that weirdo in the corner, right? Like I do weddings and I do all the pretty things and I like to design, but I also like to study astrophysics and quantum theory and game theory because I like to get my nerd on. So it's all right. So it's all good. So but and that's at our core. What we're really discussing is game theory. We're talking about taking a look at everything that has happened. How does that interact with all of the variables of the world, and how does that then translate into something tangible in terms of projections and things that we can look forward to in
mhm,
the in the future. But but talking about getting your nerd on, just to do a little bit of a transition,
mhm,
I did want to touch upon not the elephant in the room, but something that I thought was really, really cool.
okay.
You being in the technical space, you being the owner of ultimately a company that provides technology, and and you were probably doing it at a time where women, were just not only just looked over, but actively discouraged from pursuing anything in technology or AV, or production. So, did you find that that was a hurdle? Did you find you were affected by that, or did you not experience a whole lot of that at all in terms of discrimination?
Interestingly, I didn't. I mean, it
Hmm.
is true, and I'll tell you why. But it is true that, and it still continues to this day, that production is predominantly a male,
Mhm.
it's a male dominated background. All right. So most of the crew that I have, I engage are guys, and so but I have, starting back in the 80s, there you go, it's out there.
Right.
Like I said, I started in a corporation. I was on staff. I started before that at another place, but I was always on corporate television and corporate events. I was always true to myself, and I always did my best. I never thought to use um, being a woman as, or look at being a woman as something that was a negative for me. I
Right.
never even thought about it. I just went to work every day, and maybe there were other people who had those conversations about me or
Right.
whatever. Um, I did my job, and for me, I have to, just for me personally, whether I were, man, woman, whatever, I always think you have to prove yourself every time. You need
Right.
to go out. I mean, unless you've got, you're doing a road show where you've got, the same, 50 crew, you're going around the country, whatever, that you don't have to reinvent the wheel there all the time. But, in my business, there's always ins and outs of the technical people. You might have this audio guy here and this, this person there, but you always have to prove and respect everybody and
Right.
respect yourself. So I mean, have there been people who have kind of shown a little bit of disrespect? Yes. Have I found ways to get around certain, crews, locations? Have I found ways to manage those teams? Absolutely. You just have to use your head. If I can't tell people what they need to do, maybe there's somebody else that I can bring in that I trust that can be my go between and manage this situation. But, I never let, being a woman um, stop me from doing an excellent job. Um, and I know that's not the case for a lot of people. Now what's really fun is I come in on a show, and the person doing audio and lighting are both women. So there's young women who are out there, and they are learning technical skills like that I've never seen them doing, and they work
Right.
really hard. They have really, great work ethics, just like, a lot of the guys. I know women who don't have great work ethics. It's to me,
Right.
it's just neither here nor there. But for me personally, I have never, I've never felt it. I just do my thing. I go in, and this is what I say. It's like I go in. It's like, I'm not here to be everybody's friend. I'm not here. I want to be friendly. I want to be professional, but I'm here to do a job, and so are you. So let's
Right.
get it on. You know.
Right. Just, just keep your head down, do what you need to do, and keep it moving forward.
Yeah. It's not for me. That's not hard. The hard part is, the hard part is taking the idea of what the client wants to do, and that's not even hard for me because that's what I do. But it's like that's the challenging piece. It's, here's the client, and he's out there, and he's out on the stage, and he's having a nervous breakdown, or he's, something's not happening right for him. It has nothing to do with us. And the crew's standing here, and they're like, "Oh, this guy's, what's up with him?" And it's all good. It's all good. Let him do his thing. We do our thing. Let's all, focus. So, um, for me, I just think the man woman irrelevant for me.
Perfect. I mean, as it should be,
I agree.
as the world is now, or we're getting to that place. I shouldn't, shouldn't
Yeah,
make
I
that
think that
sweeping
there's
statement,
there's
but
there's people that are jerks everywhere.
sure,
There's people that are jerks to women. There are people that are jerks to guys. I've seen. I went out. I did a
it's equal opportunity.
I
That's for
I did
sure.
a job once, and, my cameraman was out, and he was out with my producer, who was a woman, and they're supposed to go out and shoot a video, candid show, all right? And, the 2 of them are standing there, and the CEO comes in on his bicycle, and he points to my 2 crew people, and he goes, "You, out of here." Well, my camera guy, my producer had to wrap herself around the camera guy, so because he was gonna slug the guy because he was so disrespectful, right? And he was disrespectful. He was equal opportunity disrespectful. He was disrespectful to my camera guy and my producer gal. So, everybody, there's always jerks everywhere that can insult anybody.
Right. Well, yeah. Well, yeah, and at least he was even-handed in his disrespect, right?
Was. Yeah.
He gave it a little bit. He was
Yeah.
an all around jerk.
Yeah.
That's that's just crazy. But do you? I'm sure you have a laundry list of past situations and circumstances. What's the craziest situation you've ever felt? Has it been weather related or person related or venue related or all three?
I have a
Or
I have a well, actually, it is kinda all 3, now that you talk about that.
okay,
So this was, it was back was it before the tech wreck? It was right after the tech wreck, the first tech wreck anyway. And I was doing some events for a group out on the West Coast, and they wanted to do their President's Club, in Indonesia. So we go out to Indonesia, and I find out that it is monsoon season there, so they got really good room rate.
it's fantastic.
Yeah, yeah. But
Super
we have
cheap.
a big enough group that we can't actually fit them into either of the giant hotels that we've bought out ballrooms. So we have to make a tent. All right. So we're building a tent out on the lawn of this big hotel. And it was interesting. There's a lot of weird details, but the one specific thing that's really weird. All right. So you've done site inspections where you go and everything seems really tied up, beautiful. If it's going to work, it's great. And then when you come back, 4 months later, things are completely different.
New general manager, everybody's been fired.
Yeah, or the this electrical panel that we're going to spec now isn't there, and they're using something that looks like something from 1950 with giant rheostats, and so here we are in the monsoon. The tent is up. We've built it. We've built the inside. We're doing this great full on heavy duty production inside of this tent during these monsoons. People are coming from the hotel in the rain. And I walk back and I look at how the electric is set up. So here's this kid in his shorts. Okay. It's pouring rain with a giant electrical distro and sitting in a puddle. And I say to everybody, I said, nobody touch any of the metal in this tent at all.
Right.
Because
don't move.
don't,
Don't
I mean,
move.
I'm like, how are we going to get through this? And it wasn't even that. That was just one thing. I mean, my lighting, we said lighting should be pretty safe. We can rent that here instead of throwing it in the container to bring it on the ship. And my lighting, all the gear comes in a dump truck. Yeah. So they're all, here's your lights. So it comes back to people and managing people. So I have all this going on and so much more. I can't even, don't have the time to talk to you about.
I'm sure.
But having the right people to be able to take that and put it together and make it so that the client says that was a great event. That they didn't see any of that. They didn't see the kid in the puddle. They didn't see the giant dripping water. It was, they didn't see any of that. They had a great time. And, they didn't see that the camera guys that they brought in to help us didn't speak English and we're trying to call camera shots and they didn't see any of that, but having a core team, that's why I couldn't do a show like that without having a core team with you. It's, you can't just say, we're going to use everybody local. You can't. So
yeah, you really can't. You can talk about that all you want to in terms of no problem. I'll go overseas. It's one of those interesting parallels to other event professionals in the industry who say that they can produce a destination wedding or a destination event until they need to.
Right.
Until you actually have to do something overseas, and then you realize the cultural, technological, and sociological challenges that, and that's not even talking about the weather. That's not even talking about the geography.
No. International just multiplies everything. When you're worried about things for a regular event, and I'm sure you and all your viewers and listeners know this. It's like you've got a billion things. Well, maybe not a billion. A couple million details you're worried about.
Right. Maybe 10 million.
Yeah, 10 million. It could
yeah.
be. But internationally, I mean, even just shipping equipment. I mean, what if your container falls off the ship on the way over? Now, the things that has changed, some of the things that have changed, but one thing in particular since that event is, we had a shipping container of production gear that we needed to send over. Stuff has become so compact and so small these days. I mean, our industry has evolved so fast. It's amazing. I can edit. I have more power in this computer here than, and I can edit just as well as I did when I had an entire machine room. Back in the 80s, we had I worked, on staff, and we had, 1-inch machines and Betacam machines and switcher, computer components and, videotapes and so much stuff you need to actually have to make something happen. And now you just need this computer. And it's amazing. I mean, you can create content and bang, it's out in, 5 minutes. So the evolution of in my lifetime, less than my lifetime, in my adult professional lifetime, has completely changed. Amazing.
Yeah, and it's so it's so amazing to see where technology is going to lead us going into the future. We've been talking about sort of the evolution of live events and the evolution of, so for some from a grand scale, from a macro perspective about the industry, but also from a personal level,
Mhm.
and your transition into the podcasting and different projects that you want to get into. You never really know what new product is going to be on the horizon
Mhm.
and is going to really be the game changer. We all talked about Google Glass. Google wanted
Yeah,
us to think that Google Glass was going to be the next big technological, miracle, item, that it was going to solve all problems, cure cancer, feed the kids in Africa, just everything. Google Glass was going to be everything to everyone. And now, try and tell me where you can find some Google Glasses at this point. I don't know.
it's true.
You
I
know?
was doing some media events and tech media events, and a couple of the guys were walking around with these Google glasses, and even then, though, people were like, what are you doing, man?
Right. Like, what is
I mean,
that?
I thought it was interesting. I mean, I'm not a very early adopter myself, as you can tell by the 5-year plan on the, podcast situation, but
Right.
I did, eventually get a Apple Watch, recently. Let me see if I can yank my headphone out. Let me see if I can strangle myself. See, it's this whole tech thing here,
Yeah. See, it's all
Tricia.
good.
Yeah.
It's all
So,
good.
but the Apple Watch is a slow evolution as well. I want to make sure everybody else, how can I want to see how I can actually use something before I'm out there. Like, I don't buy something and then say, how can I use this? I say, here's 10 things I can use this for. Okay, this makes sense for me. Maybe that's
Yeah.
a good way to look at the gear,
Yeah. And the gear is definitely going to play into it, because I think we've all been so app heavy
Mhm.
in the last few years, where everyone's popping out with an app and everyone's coming out with a website and a new software angle to get things done. But really, maybe perhaps the answer is going to lie in the hardware, the new technology of the evolution of cameras, the evolution of shipping a kit to somebody
Right.
and walking them through it so that they can set themselves up technologically, and then you take care of all of the software editing back end features like that. So it really is interesting to see where we're going to go in terms of AV and event tech and really technology in general.
I think, interesting on a micro level. So, all right, so we'll
Yeah,
talk about the podcast, right? So when we were
right.
kind of having a conversation beforehand about microphones and things like that, I have a very difficult time, and this plays into what you're just saying. I have a very difficult time with people who come on my show and have a microphone that is substandard. Okay. Now, the microphone that I'm using here is, under $100. It plugs right into my computer, and I think it sounds halfway decent. When I record it, it sounds halfway decent. I'm not a crooner. I don't need, giant $500 microphone, but it makes a huge difference with that. So what you're talking about is, people have said to me, why don't you get one of these microphones and ship it out to your guests, and they will plug it in and they will talk on that microphone. And when they're done, they ship that back to you. And I think, wow, that is a real huge pain in the neck.
Yeah.
But then I sit there and I'm editing this stuff and I'm like, okay, I'm sounding pretty good on my podcast and everybody else sounds like crap. How do I avoid that? I send them a full on note up front saying, the importance of a microphone can't be understated. It's the most important thing that you can do for yourself is have a good microphone.
Right.
Does not compute. So I have to retrofit it in my head to see how I'm actually going to make that work. Either it's not going to make a difference, and I say, okay, the microphone is, you can hear people, or it's going to make a difference for me, and I'm going to say, this is not working for me. This is not working for me as a podcaster. For them to sound worse than me because they're more important than I am. So it's the same, I think. Now to spin that into technology and events technology, I think that companies are not going to go out and buy big audio rigs and giant LED walls and things like that. I think you can. This is where being being a boutique or being a having the ability to know where to go to get these things is important. I think there's a lot of event technology that's evolving. I think so that's always going to be in the realm of big production companies.
Right.
Like me, I am, like I said, I was boutique before boutique was cool. I don't have a lot of gear. I've got like computers and core team. I go in and then I can bring in whatever I need to execute whatever event you guys have. Right? Small event, I'll do this. Big event, I do this. All right. So that's where that's going to be. The app stuff, things in the trade show and the exhibition arena. Those are things that I think people can get into and see how they can actually use that to their advantage. That's something that these people can get their hands on and say, even registration applications, there's always been bottlenecks in reg. How can we change that? Does everybody have to come to the same place and register? No, there's some kind of a thing you can, maybe do this in advance and maybe you go to a certain place and you get this. It's the same experience. It's just a different, you're not standing in line for an hour,
Right. Right. And ultimately you have to do a deep dive into what does registration really accomplish? Because yes, you're checking that person in, but if that's all you're doing with your registration process, then why do it that particular way? People can check in a number of different ways, and they can check in that are physically distant, and they can check in using a variety of different experiences. But what if but if your point is to provide a welcome experience to that registration component, so someone comes in, they get their badge, they get their packet, they get their bag, they get whatever they're going to get, they get that greeting, then that changes the game. So I think this whole thing kind of just forces you to ask those questions, and break the things that you're doing in terms of an event down into its core components. What are we, what's the real goal? What are we really trying to do with each component of this event that we're putting on, and how can we, perhaps shift that? Do people have to go to that one particular desk, like you were saying? Can we do this remotely? Can they, come through a gate of some sort? There are different ways. And I think, if there's one thing, it's that, adversity breeds, activity, adversity breeds innovation. So it's going to be interesting to see what some of these companies come up with and what new gadgets and tricks and everything that they all come out with.
Yeah, I mean, I think that there's a lot of things. Last night I was talk about evolution. It has nothing to do with events, but I'm having a conversation with friends of mine, and even the way that we get ice cream has changed. All right, so my friends decide they're going to go get ice cream. Like for me, I am a ice cream hound. I mean, it is like after dinner, it's all about the ice cream. All right, so going to the ice cream parlor is an ultra sensory experience for me. There's colors and lights and people and action. It's like, oh, what am I going to get? Oh, I like this. I like that. I like this. So people now, this is how people in North Jersey, get their ice cream. They they go ahead on the app, they order their ice cream. The guy says, they send you, it's one guy who owns the ice cream place. He sends you a text and says, be ready in 15 minutes, come to my joint and I'm going to, give you your ice cream. They back up to the door, pop their trunk, and the ice cream gets magically put into their trunk. They put their trunk down and they leave. All right. So I said, this is, we're all sitting here going, this is a great opportunity to come up with some kind of a gizmo. I'm giving everybody this idea here. So this is all going to come out now. Here's my big invention, right? I'm blowing it. Somebody's going to come up with some kind of thing for the trunk that has like a hot hole and a cold hole. So you go get your ice cream, you pop the trunk, the guy puts the thing in the blue thing, closes it down, and you take off. You go for your pizza, they go to the top of your trunk, they put the pizza in the red one, you take off. I mean, so this is how stuff evolves.
It is how stuff evolves.
It's weird. I mean, I know it's like an off-topic, conversation, but I'm sitting here going, necessity is the mother of invention, so weird.
Well, and that's for sure. I mean, you never know. And what you can do is, sit and think about all the negatives and everything. I mean, because
Right.
certainly there's plenty of that going on right now.
Yeah.
But you can also be sort of excited for the future and think about innovation and where we might, go with just a little bit of imagination.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, you have to. I mean, I look at it and you're right. You're either in the hole and you're going to sit there, or you're in the hole and you're digging out.
Right.
So I've always been a digger. So
Right.
I'm good at digging holes. But
Fabulous.
I'm good at getting out of them too, I guess. But yeah, I mean, and I'm at a point in my life now. I'm poised, I think, to come out of this in a different way.
Yeah.
I feel it in myself. I feel that there's been a change, and I don't know that everybody can relate to it or, what I care about it. But, for me personally, I'm coming out differently. I'm coming out fighting. I'm coming out.
I'm there with you.
Yeah. Organized, trying to be as organized and out there. And I'm all in at this point. And maybe I wasn't all in before. Maybe I wasn't. Maybe I was going through some of the motions. I mean, again, when I'm on site, it's 100%. But it's what does this say? Hey, look at that! There's our friend Kyle.
Kyle has been commenting. I didn't really want to kind of
I'm reading some of this.
I didn't want to interrupt the flow of what was happening, but this last one was gold.
I love that.
So thank you.
I love him. Hi, Kyle. So anyway, that's kind of where I'm at. I think everybody needs to find it in them, and I know this sounds goofy, whatever. You got to find it in yourself. To pull yourself up. And it doesn't even just mean from this. It's like every day you've got challenges,
Well, it's like I was talking with Channing yesterday. I said, we're talking about right now the global pandemic, and we're talking about how different people have different coping mechanisms for responding to that. But, people face personal pandemics all the time.
Yeah.
You go through illnesses and broken bones and cancer and financial disaster. And, people have personal devastations all the time.
Yes.
So, so that in and of itself is hardly something that is new to any of us. So you're either going to react to it a certain way, and this is going to dictate how you're going to go forward, or you're going to react another way and not move forward at all. I don't know what the alternative. I don't really react that way. I don't sort of wallow if I can help it, because it helps me preserve my own mental health. To think about the future and to get in there. Yeah.
And I think everybody has good days and bad days. I mean, I always say to people, I'm a Pisces, I'm a yin and a yang. It's like, I'm dark and I'm light. There's good days and there's bad days. There's days when I think it just, this just stinks, but there's days, what am I going to do? I'm not 85. I'm not 65. I'm not ready to retire. I'm not thinking, well, I don't say I don't think about retirement because it sounds extremely fun, but I'm not ready for that.
It's not there yet.
It's not there yet. No.
Right.
No. But you to me, you have to move forward. I can't stay still, and I don't want to go backwards. So the only option really is forward.
Right. That is exactly right. And, and with that thought, we are at the 1 hour mark. I want to be respectful of your time and of course everybody who's watching. So I did want to leave everyone with, of course, that one final thought that I've been closing all my interviews. And if you've been paying attention, you might know what's coming.
I do.
There you go. So let the people know we are out of quarantine. You can do what you want. You can eat what you want. Where are you going? What are you doing?
All right. So my birthday was March 13th, right? So
Happy birthday. I know
thank
mine
you.
was April 5th.
Yeah, see, this is like exactly. So what did we do? But I had a reservation at Chef Vola's in Atlantic City. It's a cute little Italian place that gets really, really great reviews. Very, very
Okay.
close. And so I'm going to Chef Vola's, man. They're BYOB. I can bring my own stuff and have a nice, heavy Italian meal.
That sounds like a dream. It's going to be a good. It'll happen. It'll
It
happen.
will. It will. I'll celebrate my birthday and yours.
Thank you. Yes, I said in a previous show where there were enough people who have been giving great restaurant suggestions that I might just coordinate a crawl. So I'll send out one email to everybody like, hey, if you're going to be in the DC area and you'd like to participate in this, what's turning into like a 7-day crawl, restaurant crawl, then here's where we're going to be, and this is what we're going to be eating.
I'm so in.
Yeah, exactly. It sounds like a blast. Well, thank you so much, Terri. Thank you, Kyle, for commenting. Shout out.
Love that, Kyle.
Yeah, he's hilarious. But again, thank you, and make sure to tune into Terri's podcast, the Event Yak. Her details are, of course, in all of the posts that we're doing, and share with all your friends. Sharing is caring.
Sharing is caring, and subscribe.
And subscribe. Yes, thank you for that. I keep forgetting that. It's all good. All right, Terri. Thank you so much. I hope you enjoy your day.
Thanks, Trish.
Thanks. Have a good one.
You too.